It's time to present Scott DuPont to bring you another episode of Finance Your Movie with tips and strategies to help you get your money to tell your story. It's time!
Back with another episode of Finance Your Movie. Thrilled to have John Baumgartner here, award-winning writer, director, producer, and his most recent film, Beneath the Light. Welcome, John.
Yeah, thank you, Scott.
And thanks to Andrea McKinnon once again from Vision Films for referring you. It's a great distributor, so congratulations on that.
Oh yeah, we're very happy. Yeah, thanks.
So you were originally from Ohio, and
Right.
you did a pretty typical path where you did a bunch of short films to gain experience, then you did kind of a mid-level documentary. So tell me a little bit about how you got started in this business, and then we'll talk about some of your features.
Oh, great. Well, it was when I was a kid, when I was basically 8 years old. I'll never forget. I was walking home from my grandma's house, and I stopped in my tracks and realized, oh gosh, it was a recognition that I was a filmmaker. And there literally hasn't been a day since that day that I have not been working on a film. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because it's given me such direction in and such ambition and focus. Um, and also too, it's a struggle to balance your life, right? Because it's such a hard industry to break into. But my dad, I grew up with my dad taking me to the movies religiously, and he was the type that would take me to any movie, regardless of the rating, because he loved good film. And so that really had a big influence on me. And so, yeah, so I just, the second I graduated from high school, I left Ohio, went out to California, and eventually I found my way to Roger Corman's studios in Venice back when he had those really low budget like Concord films. And so I worked there for about a year, year and a half, and
Wow,
learned.
what an experience.
Yeah, and it was the last heyday of his little empire he had there, and it was learn the ropes. And those kind of places, it's kind of like the asylum too. They're lower budget, and you get in, you learn the ropes, and you get out. You know what I mean? Because the goal is to keep ascending, and or to start making your own things, and that's exactly what I did at that company.
Wow, what a cool thing. I mean, he's legendary.
Yeah, right, right, yeah.
So, so you did all that, and then you're in LA, and you decided to do your first feature that was Hard Pill.
That's right. Yeah. We had my producing partner at the time, Susan Stobner, and I had made a short film together called War Story that screened in over 50 film festivals worldwide. It was a success for us. It was a 30-minute movie in the style of Charlie Chaplin on an actual hand crank camera, and with gay themes. And so it was unusual, which is
Was that
also
8 millimeter, 16 millimeter?
35. We shot at 35
35.
hand crank. I'll never forget, we got to do all our post-production of it at Photochem, which is one of the few remaining labs today. And they were just thrilled because it was a black and white film. And so we got all their best, like this tiny little indie short film, and we got all their best people working on it because they were just so excited to be able to photochemically work on a black and white film. But anyway, so that was a success for us. So we decided to make another film, and we had it was a film called Prom that we were
Let's
going.
back up real quick.
Yeah.
You said it was a success. How much money did you have into it? How did you get that money? And what did you get out to make it a success?
Oh, yeah. Hence the theme. And that film was not a financial success by any means. In fact, there are some like 4 distribution deals fell through. Imagine if you would, it was a silent film. It was LGBT. And it was a short, and it was a 30-minute short, which is like a running time that's completely awkward for everyone, except for the film itself. It worked for the film, right? And so I like to say it opened a lot of doors to me in terms of other artists. It gave me a lot of credibility, but it did not make us any money. The investors in that, we put about 90 grand into it, and the investors who put money into that were coming from an art investment kind of perspective, because it was such an unusual project. It had the Chaplin's work felt so the LGBT themes felt so organic to Chaplin's world that I was really, as a huge Chaplin fan, really wanted to see that. And the investors thought so too. And so
And
we did not
I'm
make,
just curious,
yeah,
how did you find, not that you're always looking for artsy investors, but in that
right.
particular case, how did you find those kind of art investors who weren't too concerned about an ROI, but were they just
Right.
people you knew or people you
Right.
found?
Yeah. And those were people who were not in the film world, no surprise. Some of them, like Susan, had contacts with them. Susan, the producer, put in money because she was so passionate about the project. She put in a chunk of money. And like, I'll never forget, one was one of the guys who put money into it was a state manager for a billionaire. And so but he was a big arts supporter. And so it just really, and he has a cameo in the film, and it was just like people like that who thought this is really cool, and we were so passionate about it. That was the thing that sold it, and everyone knew, like, we're making this little silent, hand cranked. You can see it on johnbaumgartner.com. There's some clips of it, and we're going to release it shortly. But yeah, it was no one had, I think, thought we were going to conquer the world with it. I did. I actually did. But like you say, like we say, you have to be passionate about every project you do, or it's dead in the water.
And that
But
ended up being your calling card that
right,
opened up
exactly.
other doors.
It sure did. Yeah. So to that opened a lot of doors to Hard Pill, which was the feature that was a success then, what financially. And but in between then, we Susan and I had a project called Prom, which was a John Hughesian quest of a young man who Joseph Gordon-Levitt was attached to play the part. And he was a young man trying to find a boy to take to prom with him. He's a high school kid in 80s Rust Belt, Ohio. And so MTV was going to make that as their first LGBT themed film. And we had prepped. It was completely prepped. I had a great DP that I was working with, and it fell through at the last minute. And we were so discouraged. Dave Gale, the head of MTV Films at that time, this would have been 2002, just pulled the plug on it and had other films that he thought would be a better fit. And so it was very, very, very disheartening. But it was one of the things that you have to do, which was Susan and I said, you know what? We've had so many uh, so many rugs pulled out from under us. Let's just stop waiting for permission. Let's shoot something on a shoestring. We'll use our credit cards. We'll use our apartments. We'll use our day jobs, offices. I remember eating at a cafe every day for 6 months so I could ask the owner if we could film there for free one day. He said yes. And so we got that film in the can for 10 grand on our credit cards. Uh,
Wow.
that included buying the camera, which would, at that point, the 24p camera by Panasonic had just come out. You could film on video and it looked like a film. And so we shot that film, we got it in the can, we cut it together, and we submitted to Sundance. And we had moles at Sundance, a number of people who we knew. And we were cut on the very last day of the 2005 Sundance. We were so disappointed by that. But the silver lining was that there were producers who were sniffing around Sundance who wanted to put money into a film to kind of, spruce up their CV and get a executive producer credit. And that's exactly what we did. We got 25 grand through producer Irene Turner. She gave us 25 grand, which so we used that to finish our audio post, to do our final mix, to do our M&E for foreign markets. And then we were also able then to do all the deliverables with that money. And the ironic part was, is we sold it to MTV, who was hatching their network, LGBT network called Logo. And we were a flagship movie of the release of that network. They promoted the heck out of that film. They gave us 90 grand. And then I remember we got another 15 grand from the Weinstein Company when they were as an advance on DVD, one of the dying age of DVD back then. And
Wow.
so we, all the investors made money. I'll never forget the casting director, Patrick Baca, had a really nice deferment. He never in a million years thought he would get it. Because the one thing that was free making that movie, thanks to Patrick, was saying yes or no to the casting. So we spent 2.5 months casting that film perfectly in LA. Because of War Story, actors thought that I really knew what I was doing, and I had an exciting vision. So they wanted to work with me. So we got all these really established, great a lot of them were TV actors who were hungry to do something significant and were, tired of just the mill of the television work. And so, yeah, and so we got all, so I'll never forget, Patrick, the casting director, got this fat paycheck when we sold that movie. And he called me and said, John, whatever you want to do next, count me in.
And your investors were thrilled. What a great story. Full circle,
Yeah,
MTV.
yeah, it really was. And it was an example of not waiting for taking a disappointment, not waiting for permission and moving forward. The expenditure wasn't great. 10 grand for us, that was our liability financially, 10 grand. So, it was a big success story. And that film is available on DVD. We're exploring options. It was just pre-streaming, so we're trying to figure out if we could make it was actually filmed in standard def, kind of in that whole Dogma movement, like Celebration and Italian for Beginners, those great Dogma films.
Well, maybe
And
upres it and get it on some streaming platforms.
so we've just upresed it, and so we're looking into that now. But
Great.
so it's available on DVD, and it's also on my johnbaumgartner.com.
So I guess the next film was San Andreas Quake. That was an asylum film, correct?
And yeah, speaking of those Roger Corman roots, right? And so I was at the point where I hear stories of like Spielberg saying like I would have directed the Telephone Book, and that's exactly how I felt at this time. I just it's so hard to break in, and I was lucky because of Hard Pill. Todd Holland, who was a big television director, Malcolm in the Middle, the Larry Sanders Show. He went on to do these great musicals for Nickelodeon, the Monster High series. Fantastic director, and became my mentor. He loved the film. His husband was in it, and he became my mentor. And for years tried to break me into television, and we just couldn't crack that nut. And so I made a number of projects, short films like The Conners, not the television show, mine was first, 4 2-minute episodes that just to prove to the showrunners on The Real O'Neills, a show he was doing for ABC Disney, that I understood how to direct episodic. And I'll never forget, I got an episode. And that episode, I was at the Disney Studios where we were filming the Conners, and I got on the list of directors, and I'll never forget walking around the Disney studios calling my mom. She had dementia, but this was before she really was gone, and was able to just tell her, I'm at the Disney studios. I'm on the list to direct. And my episode happened was meant to happen 2 weeks after the show was canceled. So I never got
Oh
the
man.
opportunity to direct that show. And that story repeated itself over and over. So it's just so difficult. So this opportunity came with The Asylum, which, does these mockbusters. They're the kind of the modern day Roger Corman,
Micro
and
budget.
micro budget rip-off movies usually,
Yeah.
right? And Lord love them. They have a fantastic business model. I really enjoyed the three guys who run the company. They're good guys. But most of the films are completely unwatchable. And it's because they write them in 2 weeks, they direct them in 10 to 12 days. A lot of times they're too short because it's so rushed, and then they stretch them in the most inorganic, painful ways, in my opinion. But there's an audience for these films. They're so good, they're so bad, they're good kind of thing.
Yeah, like Sharknado.
Yeah, Sharknado was like a triumph and that they probably was the biggest budgets that they had was on that series. And I actually shared, I think they were doing Sharknado 3 when I was doing San Andreas, 2 or 3. So I shared all the VisFX people and everything like that. But anyway, it was an opportunity. And someone says to me, it was my manager at the time, says, there's no bad credits, John. Just if you can get more credits on IMDb, that's just going to help. It's controversial.
So did they call you or did you
No,
apply to Asylum?
I have friends who had acted in films with them. And so I put together a whole presentation because they had said they wanted to do an earthquake movie, which was to be a ripoff of the Dwayne Johnson San Andreas movie. Basically, for the amount of money that San Andreas spends on catering in one day is like our entire budget, right? It'll probably literally.
Yeah.
And so I had 3.5 weeks to write it. I just pitched, and I remember I did a very expansive storyboard animatic with music and effects and animated drawings and stuff, and that impressed them that I cared. And so so I got 3.5 weeks to write it,
Was this with
and then
let's back up real quick.
yeah,
So did you actually go to Asylum and pitch in person or was this via Skype or Zoom?
Yeah, that was back in the day. So yeah, the pre-COVID. So I did go there. I remember giving the pitch to David Latt and pitching my idea. And what they like to do is they like to have you pitch 5 paragraph ideas for the film. So so you do like, oh, this is my out of a box thought. This is my, oh, this would be super like original and cool. This would be fresh. And then this one is kind of what we know. And then this one is absolutely all the cliches, and they want the cliched version. That's the thing I'm finding in all this kind of budget level and pre-sales and the world sales and stuff. They don't want to take chances. They just want the same thing. And it goes back to this idea that art, like when you direct, when actors make choices, if they make a bold choice and it succeeds, they're a genius. If they make a super bold choice and it fails, oh my God, they look terrible. And you can apply that to all art. So they wanted, and to my disappointment, wanted the most trite, cliche, tropey kind of version of it. So I had like 3.5 weeks. I had a buddy who helped me break it and put it on paper, but I did the writing of it. And then I had 12 days to direct it. And in that, that's a movie that really 20 days, 20 days of sweating it, right? Because it's action, it's adventure.
Yeah, a lot of visual effects.
A lot of visual effects. So they gave me, it was either going to be 4 days or 4 weeks of prep. Like literally, they make films where, okay, you get 4 days of prep. And that's why the films, and Lord love all the directors who try to do that, or at least jump at the opportunity. And it's like, you cannot, to me, when I shadowed Todd Holland, I was like, well, I want to shadow your prep, because most people, when they shadow television, don't shadow prep. And I'm like, well, what's the point? That's when like
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
depth
Prep
talk
is
is.
everything.
Yeah. And so thank God, I got 4 weeks of prep, and that never happens there. It's because they decided to go after instead of before Thanksgiving. So I had 4 weeks of prep, and the producer was like, wow, we never get this amount of access to a director. And I am proud of that movie because I think it's very watchable. I have friends who actually like it, and but it was an asylum film, and I think it unjustly has a super low rating
Well,
in
not
its
not that you
score.
got not that you got any upside on that. That's not the asylum model. You got paid, a little bit of money,
Right.
but was that financially successful for them?
Yeah, it was the most successful film they had that year, and they made a sequel then of it.
Oh,
And and secondly, it is the one of the Beneath the Light is going to change this, but to that time, it was the only movie I received checks on in its afterlife, and that's because of the brilliance of Europe and other countries. They have something called their tariffs, their creator tariffs. So I like Argentina and South America and like Germany and Italy, I would get checks. The Directors Guild of America collects them on behalf of these for these non-union directors, and I would get checks in the mail on San Andreas Quake because of these
I heard
tariffs.
about that. Even though you're not DGA, certain times you get money. Good for you.
Yeah, and that was a testament to how that movie had legs. And it was an example too of like, you're like, wow, that's the movie that was the quickest, but it was the most like blatantly, almost from Asylum's point of view, cynically just a commercial film. And I'm like kind of feeling emotionally bankrupt making it, but I'm thrilled at the opportunity and I'm thrilled to hone the craft. And of course that's the movie that I get checks on.
Yeah, and a great resume credit. So then you
Yeah, thank
decided to do Beneath the Light. That was about 500,000.
Yeah, yeah, and that was a film then because of COVID, when COVID hit, and I was going back and forth between Ohio and LA, which I still do, and my mom, as I mentioned before, had dementia. So when COVID hit, I was in Ohio taking care of her. I'd come back for a week at a time or this kind of thing and give my brother a break. And COVID hits, and musical chairs, I am sitting in Ohio for COVID. And so I'm here taking care of my mom, and I thought, well, if I'm going to be stuck here, wouldn't it be fun to use this time here to develop a movie? And growing up here when I was 8, knowing I wanted to direct, all I would do is fantasize about all the locations around here in Lorain, Ohio that I could film in. And so I said, the lighthouse, I've always wanted to film there. That would be amazing. So Beneath the Light takes place in this 100-year-old lighthouse. It's a haunted lighthouse in the movie, and they like to imagine it in real life too. And so I wrote this film, and I reached out to the lighthouse and said, would you be interested? They're like, John, we knew your dad. We'd love to. And I was like, oh, that's the great thing about a small town, right? And
Yeah.
so and to get the money, and my hometown is a really kind of economically depressed town. It was formerly Ford, manufacturing, formerly U.S. Steel, and shipbuilding and cranes, because we're right on the Black River and Lake Erie, and all of that went away. And so the town has just really been decimated over the last 50 years. And so the energy that this making a movie in this town that featured the town and starred the town was like was just phenomenal, and it allowed us to raise the money. So we raised that money. 90% of it came from Lorraine residents or Lorraine natives who were just
Now, obviously, most of them probably weren't multimillionaires rolling in manufacturing money, whatever, but they just had passion to get behind you. These were people you knew.
they had been following my career. Like our main investors, Vanessa and Chris Knipper, own a very successful marketing company here, and they were fans of San Andreas Quake. They were real supporters of prom. In fact, our production offices were in the Kuno creative offices. Point being is they always followed me and always supported. They're big movie fans. They're very dynamic, loving, new, adventurous things. They invested half the budget for us. And
Wow.
because, yeah, and so that was like great. That's when it became like, oh, this is really going to happen because someone really believes in it, and they really love Lorraine. They're very tied into Lorraine in the area. And then the rest was like 13 or 14 smaller investors that made up the balance of that budget. I had created an LLC myself. I put 2 grand of my own money into it, which then became an investment. And then we found a really good kind of entertainment lawyer out of Ohio, and we put it together, and then just pitched the hell out of this movie. And I had, by this point, I had the CV and I had the reel as a director. And Kuno donated my website. We made a really great johnbaumgartner.com website that showcased all my work. One of the things that really helped is I did a show once when Real O'Neill's got canceled. I took that little series, The Connors, which were 4 2-minute episodes, and it got to Brat, which is a kind of boutique network that does incredible viewership on YouTube for tweens and teens. And because I had kids in that series, they had seen it, and they hired me to direct 2 seasons of their show called Zoe Valentine,
Oh,
which
wow.
which was kind of their premiere show because it was one of the shows where they wanted to invest in good writing. They wanted to invest in a very good cast. We got Anna Cathcart, who's on that show Exo Kitty. She's a fantastic actor. I had really good actors. So I got to direct like a feature both seasons, and then they would cut it up into the episodes. And so and I found an incredible crew for that. Point being, though, is that that was on that website, and that really impressed the Knippers of Kuno Creative. And I had done these 2 seasons of this great show, and it was again making something out of nothing. It's like every one of those opportunities happened because I took it upon myself to make something to open that door, and having patience. And it's only, like I said, since I was 8, it was a recognition. So there's nothing else I'm doing with
Well,
my
you
life.
you paid your dues, you had the resume, you had the reel,
Yeah.
and that's what investors, usually want is some proof of concept.
Right. And this was a movie that was in a proven genre. It was a horror psychological thriller. I met Cindy Sang, who was a psychiatrist who reached out to me because she was writing and wanted input on scripts and stuff. And after many years, we collaborated on scripts. But I reached out to her. I said, "Hey, the psychology of this script, does it make sense? Because there's a fantastic twist in Beneath the Light, and it hinges on the lead character's psychology." And I said, "Is this feasible?" And she goes, "Absolutely. Not only that, but yes, and." And so I said, "Well, let's write this together." And so we did all the revisions of the script together. So I had this real authority, and she put
Wow.
money in the film because she's a big wig psychiatrist at the Cleveland, world renowned Cleveland Clinic. And so she was one of the investors, in addition to she went on to produce it, and she co-wrote it with me fantastically. So anyway, so we put that movie together, and the city, and I like to say that it was in as much the money we got as the logistical support and morale support we got from the entire city.
Yeah, you're not
The
paying
mayor,
five or $10,000 for a location like in LA.
oh, right, that we got that lighthouse carte blanche for free. And our thank you to them was, we will split all the proceeds of the gala premiere, which we did at this beautiful, huge theater in town, the Palace, built in 1928 by Warner Brothers. But we had 1,600 people through those doors for that movie. So
Wow.
that's how excited the city was
That's a
about this.
huge, huge premiere.
Yeah, and we sold tickets to that, and so we were able to pay off half our deferments just from our chunk that we got, splitting it with the Lighthouse of that premiere. And so
Nice.
in addition to that budget, we had a small amount of deferments. And again, most crew members never think they're going to get their deferments, but I'm like, I swear I always pay my deferments. And so we already, before we've even gotten a dime from distribution through that fundraiser premiere for the Lighthouse, we were able to pay off half of our deferments.
Let me ask you a question. In addition to deferments, when you're kind of stretching this fairly low budget, but congratulations on raising all the money and making a great film, do you ever
Yeah,
do points to some of your key crew, back end
exactly.
points?
That's exactly right. So because of my experiences in LA, I was able to, I had really, really good friendship relationships with cast, some crew. And I reached out to them and they knew that this passion project was coming down the pike and they were like, just count me in. So my production designer, my set decorator, my sound guy, originally my DP, but he then got a conflict. But these were people who said, I will work for basically 150 a day, which was nothing. And I gave them all a point on the LLC's back end, and that'll last forever. I'm almost certain they would have done it without it too. But I was just like, I appreciate you. I want to pay these guys. I want it to be rewarding to them, and I want to do many more of these with you. So I hope that this films can be a river to all of us, And yeah, so we gave points, and we also gave, like, John Ferraro, who's our sales agent, who used to be my manager and was my sales agent on Hard Pill and got us a great distribution. He's the one who got us all that great distribution through Paramount and MTV. He came on, we gave him points, and my DP, who was local, who did an incredible amount of prep, we gave him points on the back end. So yeah, we definitely gave points and tried to compensate as much as we could, but knowing that we couldn't a lot.
Awesome. Well, I can tell that the after seeing the film, the quality, it looks like a $2 million film. I mean, the lighthouse, the locations, the
Yeah,
lighting, everything just looks really, really high production value. So,
thank you.
congratulations on making that Beneath the Light.
Yeah, thank you. It's been and beneaththelight.com has all kinds of behind the scenes. In fact, we'll touch on some of this stuff, but we have an hour-long making of that comes out next week on beneaththelight.com, and it's real content rich about how to make a film from nothing.
Now, is that the best way that people can see the film, Beneath the Light, or
Yeah,
where would you like
beneaththelight.com.
audiences to go to see it?
Beneaththelight.com, and at the top we have a link to all the streaming platforms. You can choose your favorite streaming platform, and then we have the trailer. We have a novel coming out. We have a novelization, and to talk about, we realize that just having a film is so hard in the static of our crowded media landscape to be seen. So we also came up with a novelization, which is coming out soon, and a game, which is out now.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so there's a content-rich murder mystery game that takes place at the lighthouse in the universe of the film, the story of the film. And if you play it all the way through, it'd probably take you 6 to 8 hours to play. And it was and that's the first thing I did during COVID. And there's that book about the filmtrepreneur by Ferrari. I can't remember his first name,
Yeah.
but Alex, you were close.
Alex, yeah, I read that book. It's really good.
Yeah, I remember reading Alex Ferrari's a Filmtrepreneur, and he was just talking about ways to just create ancillary products that give more exposure. And the idea is you want to collect emails, but you want to give them something of value. And
Yeah,
so a couple of things so this game is like, it's only a couple bucks to play, but it's a lot of value. And the novel, we have a waiting list for the novel for when so we're collecting all these emails so that we can alert people that both, hey, the novel's ready, hey, the new, the film is out, right? You love the game, and
very
here's the link.
cool.
Yeah. And so we created a nice email list through that, and also created these products so we could get the word out more.
So definitely go check out Beneath the Light. Go to beneaththelight.com. John, thank you so much for being on the show. Like our guest to leave a parting word of advice for aspiring filmmakers.
I would say the greatest advice I ever heard was give up. And if you don't want to give up, then it's for you. Then give it your all. But if you can do anything else, do anything else. But if your soul and your heart won't let you do anything else, then this is for you. And just don't give up. Give it your heart and give it your all.
That's great advice from a man that truly has the passion. John
Thanks.
Baumgartner, thank you so much.
Thank you, Scott.
It's time!
There's never been a better time to make your own film. And if you have a dream project you're excited about and 100% committed to getting it funded, go to financeyourmovie.com, click on the green telephone, you'll see our calendar and find an open spot. We'll do a one-on-one call, which will be the best hour you've ever spent getting clarity and strategy towards financing your movie.